All right, assume the position. Look for spontaneous signals, because I'm going to talk about manifesting, and you're probably going to get some. Huh. Did you do lesson 1? Because if not, you may have misconstrued it when I said assume the position. Oops. Okay, it's this website. That's it. And the page you're looking for is the Secret Cure Show. The secret-cure show.org. Okay. Yeah, we do cure shows about The Secret. So I'm going to talk about manifesting and curing and tell you some stories. And you want to be, okay, I'm going to assume that you've done lesson 1, okay, too. And you want to be looking for spontaneous signals. You know, it's funny, the other day, I was sitting like this when I made another one of these movies. It was probably the HIV CureMovie. And so I was watching the HIV CureMovie I had made, and I noticed all of a sudden my finger moved, and I realized that I was getting spontaneous signals. See, I only had my hand in this position for a minute, so in the minute or so that it was there, I got 2 or 3 signals, which I hadn't noticed at the time. I must get thousands of signals every day that I don't notice. Spontaneous signals coming through trying to tell me something. And I'm just too dense to hear them. I hear the other ones, though. I mean, I got this far, but it might be better if I could hear them more. What about you? You think you get any? Anyway. Okay. If you've done lesson 1, you are in the middle of being trained to pull yourself hand over hand along a thread of signals to a negative medical test and beyond. Now, you may not, you know, if you're interested in The Secret, you may not need a negative medical test on anything. See, that's the thing. You know, on the other hand, a lot of people start doing Rhonda Byrne's, you know, Secret. You know, that's what The Secret is, in case you were also wondering what that is. You never heard of it before or something. That's what it is, you know. It's about manifesting. It's a great book about manifesting. I taught manifesting in the 80s and early 90s. Right up until the time I discovered people cure things, and then I had something more important to do. Like, people wondered, like, why did he drop teaching manifesting? That's why. You know, my students who were, you know, some of them are still with me, they sort of came along with this, you know, but some of them didn't, and they were wondering, like, why did he, like, some of them were pretty annoyed at me, actually, because it was sort of like I was invalidating manifesting to them, you know. I was saying, oh, that's no good anymore. I've got this, because I was sort of invalidating it at the time, because I was stupid, and I hadn't gotten far enough into my own cure so that I wouldn't do something like that, you know. And anyway, when I saw Rhonda Byrne's book, I just said, wow, somebody's doing that, you know. And I actually didn't realize that there were all these people who teach it until I saw her thing, and there's all these people out there who teach it. It really got into the culture, you know. It's wonderful. It's truly wonderful. And so anyway, but a lot of people come into that because they have cancer or something else that they want to cure, and a lot of people just, you know, they do The Secret and the thing disappears. They have like this miracle cure, you know, from studying The Secret or whatever, or applying it. I think they call it applying The Secret, right? And so they have this miracle cure. And see, the thing is, the reason I wrote my book called The Secret Meets the Cure Drive, and the reason I'm talking about this now and making this movie and doing secret cure shows, in addition to that, it's just great to get back into it, really. You know, it is. You know, it's really wonderful to get back into it. And you know what? Now that I've said that, I think that once I get making these cure movies out of the way, I'm going to call some of my old students up and invite them to do secret cure shows. I am, because I bet they'll be tickled pink, you know, and it'll mean a lot to them probably. So anyway, so, ta-da, I'm going to do that. Dun, 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 dun. Now I got an idea, see? You gave me an idea. You got me thinking. I'm glad I made this movie. Some fun things to do. But see, the reason that I made this movie, just to get back to the point, I do digress a lot. And that was a digression right there, is that people study and apply the secret, and they do great with it, and then they die. And see, I trained a lot of people to manifest, and some of them got really incredible. I mean, they were great manifestors. You know, they got everything they wanted, and then they died. And I had a lot of people die back in the AIDS epidemic. I had a lot of people die, you know. And I remember, man, golly, you know, when I think about that, and these guys were manifestors. Like Stephen Amaral was an absolutely incredible designer, and his career just skyrocketed. I remember my staff used to run to his, you know, he'd close out his samples and his designs that they just never flew or something, you know, and they'd run over there, you know, and they'd get like bargains, you know, they'd buy a $4,000 coat for $400 or maybe even $300, you know. They loved his stuff. Everybody loved him, you know. The people in New York, like, they recognized him. He was a genius, and he was my man. I mean, he was my person, my colleague. He was one of my volunteers. He was my assistant. He was my supporter, my cheering section. And when he told me that he had HIV, the bottom just dropped out of me. I felt like the elevator cable broke. You ever get that feeling? Because I couldn't cure anything back then. And I mean, we were great manifestors. And also, you know, we did manifest cures. Like Russ Osterwild's still around, you know. And we did a lot of things with diet. You know, and diet is, you know, it cures things, you know. It's just a very clunky way of curing things. And there's lots of things it doesn't cure. But in Russ's case, we found a clinic in Mexico, American Biologics, and he went there. We paid for him to go. He manifested a cure for himself. He's still alive. You know, he became the poster boy for American Biologics, and he didn't have the money to pay for the treatments, and they just kept treating him for free. You know, after the first couple, we paid around $10,000 or something, and then they just kept treating him. You know, and he was fine. You know, but these other guys I hadn't actually discovered American Biologics when Stephen told me, and what I said to him, you know, I put on a brave face and I said, you know, manifest this clearing up. And we didn't know much about AIDS at that point, and every one of them died one by one. And at the same time, they were getting everything they wanted. Their careers took off. They had the relationships they wanted and so on. But you see, Rhonda Byrne talks about like thousands of people write to her, telling her they cured, their cancer disappeared and whatever. The thing is, I know that there's an awful lot of people who don't write to her because they can't write anymore, you know, and they were great manifestors in their time. And you know what? I'm going to tell you a story about one of them who was really quite a manifester. So maybe you'll pick up some things about manifesting from this movie, you know, and at the same time, maybe you'll pick up the idea that if you cure everything, it is much easier to attract whatever it is you want, money or whatever. If you're not hosting disease, it is actually a lot easier to attract money. Though the two things can exist simultaneously, I have to say. I saw it. But it's definitely an improvement.